Pro Max looks like a small upgrade on paper, but there are some substantial new features and dozens of tips that you'll need to know in order to get the full experience. So in this video, I'll be showing you more than 25 tips, tricks, and just things you need to know about the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. Okay, so this is the biggest iPhone Apple has ever made at 6.9 inches. So that means that reachability is going to be a must, so you don't have to do hand gymnastics to get to the top of your screen to invoke the control center or to pull down the notification center. Sometimes it's nearly impossible with one hand, and that's why you can do this simple gesture right here where you swipe down and it will invoke reachability. So you need to enable this, make sure this is enabled inside your settings. So go into accessibility and then go down to touch and make sure that reachability is enabled. And now when you swipe down from this bottom section of the screen onto the bottom bar, it will invoke reachability, which allows you to reach just right here to access the control center and of course to scroll and do whatever there as well. So it makes it easier for this big 6.9 inch display. And if you want to take this a step further, go into your settings, go to general, and then go down to keyboard. And from here, you want to enable the one-handed keyboard to be either right or left, depending on your orientation. So I'm right, so I'm going to select that. And now when I go to the keyboard, I can access the full keyboard with just one hand easily. And I can tap this to go back to the old original style. And there's even another way to access the control center or even the spotlight search without even touching the screen, which really comes in handy for the Pro Max specifically since it's way up here. So check this out. If I press the action button, it invokes the control center there. I press it again and the control center goes away. Or for example, if I'm inside of an application and I want to access spotlight search, before I'd have to go out and then swipe down to access it. But now if I'm in an application, I can just press on the action button and check that out. It invokes the spotlight search for me. And to do this, all you need to do is tap on the plus up in the top right and then just search for control center. Select that, and I have mine set to toggle instead of just showing the control center. And then for spotlight search, all you have to do is search for search and you'll see it right here. And speaking of the action button, if this is your first year with an action button, you need to know how to take full advantage of this button because it's a lot more powerful than it seems at first, especially now with iOS 18. So go into your settings and go to action button, and we'll talk about shortcuts in a moment, but you also want to check out the controls because this will allow you to access a lot of your control center toggles by simply pressing on the action button. But shortcuts is where the real magic happens because if you tap down here, this is where you can access any of your, get started like simple shortcuts. But then right here, you could do something like showing a folder. So for example, I have a folder for action menu. So now if I press on my action button, check this out. I have multiple different menu options to choose from with one simple press of the action button. And the way I did that is very simple. You just have to go back to your shortcuts right here and then just create a new folder and then add shortcuts into that folder. So I have the action menu right here. It's just a bunch of shortcuts inside of a folder. But you could also take advantage of third-party applications as well. If you keep scrolling down, for example, ChatGPT, I can launch a new voice conversation with the new advanced voice mode in ChatGPT by simply pressing on the action button. Okay, so now we need to fix the camera control button. So you already know the basics of the camera control button, but we might need to fix that. So if you're struggling with it, check this out. Let's go into our settings. Let's go down to accessibility, and then we want to look for camera control right here. And this is where you're going to have some options that you will want to tweak. So for example, the controls gesture, if you don't like how you accidentally press the camera control button when you're inside of the camera, you can actually disable these. That way, when you press camera control right here, we go into the camera application and all it does is takes the picture. All you can do is take the picture. That's it. There's no swiping gestures, no menus, anything like that. It's a simple shutter button. So if you prefer that, you can do that. And I think that's a lot better than just fully disabling the feature altogether. Now, also down here, you need to change the light press force. So if you do have light press turned on, you might want to change this to lighter so it doesn't take as much force to invoke the light press gesture. And then also down here, we have double light press speed. So if you find the speed that it requires to be too fast, you can slow that down so you don't have to double tap as fast to pull up the menu. And then if we go back into our settings and go to camera and then go to camera control, you might also want to disable clean preview. So this is turned on by default. So what this is that when you go into this menu and you start messing with it, it will remove everything from the UI. The top and the bottom right here, you can see are just empty. It's just black. So you can, I guess, focus on what you're seeing here in the menu, but I don't like that. So now if you turn that off, you'll be able to access everything else that's down here in the regular camera UI. So all your different modes, you can see your latest photo, all of that when you turn that off. And here's a quick quick tip, you could also use your finger to navigate through this menu here. So if you can use your finger here to swipe through the menu options, you can tap and you can use the slider here as well with your finger.